going to do some personal highs and lows. I think that's probably...
That's good, that's good. I mean, the fuck knows what I'll say about it. Carry on.
Nights when it's all worthwhile, I suppose. I mean, the times when it was all worthwhile running a record label where you felt top of the world.
Right.
Or nights that you look back and think that was a turning point in
right.
the label. But personally for you, so Oasis, King Tut's?
Night I discovered the Mary Chain, when they'd never played a gig before, at the Adams Arms, and I think Creation had put out 10 singles, and the Reed brothers and Douglas Hart were screaming abuse at each other, and they could have broke up there and then I said, oh, do you want a manager? So we ended up working with them, and then so that's probably the first one. The Valentines, who, when I first saw them play at the old, I think it's called Neighbourhood now, but the one, what's that? What did they used to call it in Notting Hill? That venue, they used to call it Subterranea, and they started off there. I saw them and they were dreadful, but by the time we saw them in Chatham Town Hall, and they played with Biff Bang Pow, and we thought that they were so dodgy around this time. They were such an anorak band that me and Dick, we had to play above them, right? And Kevin let us and then destroyed us, right? That was a really great moment. King Tut's finding by complete default Oasis, do you know what I mean? By just being there. Then completely uncreation related, about a year ago, seeing Las Vegas, played to 400 kids about a year before the record industry found out about Las Vegas. Ironically, you and me are speaking about it today, and there's a bidding war between all the big companies, and seeing 400 kids sing all the songs back at James. So for that personal note, that would be like 4 moments.
What are you thinking when you're watching Oasis? Are you thinking, oh my God?
Are you talking about that time?
That first
Yeah, I'm just
time?
thinking why they're not signed. And then I found out that they'd played in the City in '93, and they did a punch-up on stage, or a near punch-up on stage, and everybody they played just before, you could probably look this up in the books, but they'd played before some hip industry band that everybody was there to see, an Oasis, through an Oasis moment, and get written off. So funnily enough, they got 6 months to develop, got really good. I kind of like fluked it by wandering in, saw it and went, why aren't they signed? I was literally the first person they say to them, you're great, do you want a deal, was going to get them. And I was that guy. So it was a fluke. But then again, it's a bit like, you've got to create your own luck. You've got to know when something's great, which to my credit I did. But I fluked it because I was there. So.
Is Nebworth a high or is Nebworth a low? I suppose it's both at the same time.
Yeah, it was. Well,
Nebworth. Through Nebworth, sort of arriving.
In a funny way, Steve, I'd like to claim that I had a lot to do with it. I really had very little to do with it apart from pay for the hospitality tent, which seemed to cost me about £250,000. But it was like, I only went one of the days, and I think I went the second day. And it was a Saturday, Sunday. I never even went both days. I went one day. It was too big. 3 times they wouldn't even let me into my own tent. It was my tent. I paid $250,000 and they didn't even sell Diet Coke. So it's like, so I couldn't even get a drink. And then I couldn't even get backstage to see the band. And Meg had to take me backstage to see Noel because nobody would let me backstage. It wasn't even like Oasis or the management being weird. It was like security were like, who are you? It was like there was security securing the security. So it was like, I kind of knew at that point, it kind of like, it went as far as ever it was meant to go. When you've got security minding the security and people are flying in and out in helicopters, it's kind of like, it's kind of got a bit weird. But having said that, you know what? They played pretty well. There were some great one-liners, that Noel and Liam cracked that night. It's one of the few times I've ever seen Noel. He'll deny it when you interview him. It's one of the few times I've ever seen him gobsmacked, actually. second night in Edgeworth. He was gobsmacked, really, to be honest. Well, let's put it this way, he didn't have anything to say, which was which was a first.
So, other sort of, I suppose, personal highlights, times where you thought, yeah, I'm actually running a record label and this is brilliant. On a personal level, I feel like I've achieved something. I've come a long way now.
I don't think you could probably print some of them. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's like, probably could order 7 grams of cocaine up instead of 1, do you know what I mean? You know, or like a few other things like that. You know, but yeah, I suppose some Mike Sagan in at number 1 was good. And, well, it wasn't good, it was great. Or Loaded going up the charts. Every week it would jump and jump and jump and jump, you know. And I remember having to tell Bob that it went down from 12 to 16. That was a bad phone call. And but yeah, I mean, I suppose being able to behave as badly as you possibly could, you know, and being applauded for it was kind of good fun.
And did you find yourself playing to an audience at that point?
I was playing it myself, actually. I thought other people were watching. But I was actually really playing it myself. But you do, really, when you're that out of your mind, you know. I mean, I mean, it was kind of sad and pathetic, really. You know, like the cleaner would come in to do the bins and I would kind of like put on the gang show for her, you know what I mean, you know.
And how much were you getting carried away with your own sort of success at one point, do you think?
Ridiculously. I actually thought I was possibly up there with Beethoven or Shakespeare, you know, that I was creating metaphysical history by running Creation Records. I was absolutely delusional around 1993. I don't remember much about it. I remember signing Oasis. I don't remember anything else about it.
Because that's the point I was going to ask you about next, because I mean, there's a strange, you know, there's sort of 2 stories going on, isn't there? There's the label story at that point, and then there's your own story. Because at that point, you're battling some demons at that point.
Yeah, a few. There's a few addictions going on. But I can remember another thing about 1993. For Tim Abbott to try and calm the situation is kind of like quite an extreme case, considering he doesn't calm anything. And I wanted to go to Brazil for the weekend. And we were in LA, and I wanted to fly down to Brazil to cause havoc. And he had to sit me down and say, we will actually get shot if we go down, the way that you behave and the way that I behave. And we never went. So, but yeah, we were delusional, do you know what I mean? You know, I mean, I'm sure you can, you know, I mean, we were, so, I mean, we were 33, we were kids, do you know what I mean? You know, it was like, we were like, just, you know, we're having it, and, you know, because of my upbringing and everything, it was like, you know, like, there was no humbleness, we were just like having it in a large scale, and Oasis were just an extension of that kind of aesthetic ultimately, and not because they were vibing off us, they were just, it was very, very similar, except they were more mental than we were, you know what I mean? They were more mental than me or Tim, really, you know.
So what's it like, as you say, from your upbringing to being in its position? It really is keep with the keys to the sweet shop.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was like, you could get what you wanted, really.
What were the wake-up calls then?
17 paramedics, oxygen, getting put in pseudocyanide. That was a bit of a wake-up call. And then about 7 weeks later, being in London and kind of looking around my kitchen, and there was like, but we're in a pub here at the moment, but that's Diet Coke, but never mind. And right round the whole kitchen, which is about double the size of this room, there was like a shelf, and it was like bottles of empty Jack Daniels that I had done with the Primals or Oasis. And there was right round, and we'd almost done half the kitchen, and it was a really big kitchen. And over the kitchen door there was a Jack Daniels flag, as if like, you know, we had won the flag. And I kind of was sober after about 2 months, and I kind of went, actually, this is the end. And that changed. That was one of the big moments, really, which was a personal moment, but it was like, I thought, do you know what? Why do I keep proving the same point? It's like, that I'm rock and roll, big deal, who cares?
How many points were there when you at one point thought, I'm going to die?
About 4 or 5. I think I nearly croaked at Christmas '93. That was pretty mad. That was an extreme case. There was my mate Grant that kind of like brought me back. Really, I never ended up in hospital, but I was definitely probably should have been hospitalised. I ended up about 10 days in bed after that one. Do you know what I mean? You know, and he kind of brought me round. But I definitely went over the others. I definitely went into madness for a few hours and came back. You know what I mean? You know?
And what about? So when was that? What was that? Was there anything which had caused that?
Yeah, lots of drugs. Yeah, it wasn't a good. It was I don't know. It was Christmas Eve, really.
Was it then there's the Mondrian incident? Didn't you think you were going to die during an earthquake?
Well, no, I'd just been up on cocaine for 3 days. I thought I was going to die for the... Well, to be fair, I was lying in bed. I'd been in bed for half an hour. I'd been up for 3 days with Abbott, who was still finishing the coke upstairs. And basically the hotel started getting kicked. And if you can imagine yourself in a this is how, it was a 6.6 and a 6.7, so I don't know if anybody's ever been in an earthquake, but that's really strong. And basically what happened is that, imagine being in a cardboard box, Steve, and somebody kicking the shit out of the cardboard box, except it was a hotel room. That's how heavy this hotel was. You know, it was battering the room. And I remember jumping up in the bed, like kind of like bouncing on the bed as if somebody was kicking the bed and kicking the room. And I remember halfway through it going, I don't want to die. It was really weird, really pathetic. Like, I don't want to die. And then it stopped. And then I looked out. The Mondrian's got this great look in LA, and I looked over, and all the lights suddenly went off, and I realised, God, that was an earthquake. I mean, I kind of knew it was an earthquake, but I had no idea what the hell was going on, because it wasn't even like I was sober and I woke up and it took me 5 seconds. It was like, while I was getting my head kicked in by the room, it was like, it still took me 30 seconds to realise what was going on, you know.
When you were running the label, I mean, there was a weird thing here, because you kept that label running at times where it probably should have gone bust. For about the first 10 years. Yeah, which suggests that you do have a business mind.
Yeah.
You had no real business credentials. You were a talent spotter.
Yeah, I don't know how. Well, maybe it was just a different time, really. Do you know what I mean? You know, and it's like, you know, I mean, I don't know if anybody could come along and be 4AD, a factory, a rough trade, a creation, as they were in the 80s and 90s now, really, to be honest, because a really hard thing to do. I suppose the nearest we've got to that now is probably Domino, which is, to be honest, is pretty close to kind of that aesthetic of just being a great label with great bands. But I can't really think anything else that's really falls into that.
What was your business style when you were meeting people? When you were going to America to blag money out of, I don't know, A&M for a Swerve Driver record or something?
It was pretty easy. I mean, I'd just go in and, you know, tell people it was going to be the biggest group ever. And the Americans probably never understood what I was saying, but somehow believed me, you know, and we just kept going for a long, long time. For 2 or 3 years, we survived on advances. And then we ran out of steam because we'd sold all the bands, you know, and nobody wanted to buy the Telescopes for America. But Telescopes are one of the best bands we ever signed, actually. But it's like, but nobody wanted to buy them, you know.
Because did you know you were a good salesman?
I mean, I probably am, because I still to this day, I can get any business with almost anybody that I choose to get into business with. But I mean, I was at an unnamed record company yesterday, which sounds quite shocking, which I'm going to say, and I actually felt sorry for them. You know, the way you feel sorry for trams. You know, you wish they'd bring back the trams. I kind of like, so it was really, I actually liked everybody there, and they all really mean it, and they're all completely lost, because they think they live in Edinburgh, but they live in London, do you know what I mean, you know? And it's a bit like the trams were great, record companies were great.
So, talking about being sad for record companies, tell us about the end of creation. When did you think, that's it now?
I just was bored really from about 97 onwards. I was really bored and I hated it, and it become very political of like, you know, they formed this management collective, and that's the downfall of any bloody record company, I can tell you, when they have a management collective, right? Which meant because nobody had any titles. I was just Alan McGee, and Dick was just Dick Green, and that was it. And everybody else just worked for us. And then suddenly, about 10 people were more important out of the 40 or 50 people than any of the 40 or 50 people that worked in England or any of the 40 other people that worked around the world. They were the important people. And that was the end, because the other 40 people then objected badly to that power structure. And it kind of, the minute you create that kind of division, we only did it to pacify the 10 dudes that all wanted it, which I'm sure we all know half of them, right? And that was the, I mean, that was the beginning of the end, really. And, you know, and I kind of knew that, you know, I actually musically, perversely, really like quite a lot of the records that get put out in that last quarter, although I get slated for that critically. But perversely, I think that was a really interesting part of creation, almost as interesting as the beginning was the end part, because it was really like putting that Kevin Rowland album out, even though I've been caned for that, and even though he wore a dress, blah, 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 it's what a record, do you know what I mean? And who else would have done it but creation, you know?
Did you feel at that point you'd come almost full circle?
Yeah, I knew kind of at 97 we should get out, really. I wish I had been brave enough, really. I kind of, you know, when the fireworks were going off at Nebworth, I kind of went AC/DC, and it wasn't like the band or the management, it was just the event. And when the fireworks were going off, I kind of thought, actually really isn't us. It's not even Oasis. I don't know what it is. We should get out. And but I never had the balls to do it, because I was too busy kind of like, you know, admiring myself, thinking I'm really cool. So it's like, it took me about 3 years to bail. But luckily we bailed at a point that at least we kept our dignity. We paid the bills. We kept the rest of the money. It was okay, do you know what I mean, you know?
How, just on that bill, on the last question on the bill thing, how close were you to going bust at any particular point?
Never. I mean, we you know, I mean, what, I mean, it's, people love going, you know, they had financial problems. It's like, it was rubbish. It was like, do you know what? It's like, you know, people said you're going to be close to the mark around 2000, you know, we're putting these 2 records out, but we never ever ended up taking a bridging loan or anything like it. And we still put in the Primal Scream album at number 2, and Oasis still put their album out on their own label, went at number 1, but we'd been involved in it all the way down the line, and it was like, so it was fine, and nobody, creation, you know, we paid everybody off, the staff off properly, the bills off. I mean, we ended on a high, but of course that isn't like rock and roll, so we went bust, do you know what I mean, you know?
Was it a struggle at that point? Was it a struggle to come to terms with what you become?
Well, it's always a struggle, I think, you know, on addiction, really, to be honest, because it's like, you know, you're always battling that whole thing of like, you know, but it gets easier as you get older. I mean, I'm 47 now, and it's like, you know, I mean, why would you want to be, I mean, to be honest, why would you want to be pissed at 47? I mean, it's like, do you know what I mean? You know, it's just undignified, it's horrible. But it's like, but at 33 when I was a kid, and I was just starting to have it properly, well, yeah, you want to be at the party, and you want to be like in the toilet doing what you do. Do you know what I mean, you know? But at 47, no, you don't, you know?
Just on that, last sort of record company versus record company type of thing. How much Did you ever have it in your head that when creation, as it became more and more successful, it was really proving a point, and it was flicking the bees at some of the people who were obviously cocking it up at major labels or wherever in them?
No, it was never a major labels. It was fucking. It was like flicking the V's at my parents, really, to be honest. It was like they who told me that essentially I was never going to amount to anything. But I wasn't even doing it really consciously. But I was. I mean, my mum died before I had any real success, really, in '91. So, you know, like commercial success. So, and she'd have been really proud. And then my dad, you know, who I love, but you know, we don't get on that well. But I love him, you know, and you know, that was kind of like. It was kind of just proving to my parents that I actually had some kind of musical talent, do you know what I mean? You know, and you know, but it wasn't even better, really. You know, I mean, it was just, you know, it was nothing to do with majors. I mean, I just couldn't work with majors in these days because they were just. I mean, I had a crash course. I won't name the person because I actually really like him as a human being, but this person I signed one of my bands to in the '80s. And I learned everything that I know now off of him. How he did everything, I did the opposite. And, you know, it's unfair to name him because that would be horrible, but everything that dude did, I did. If he went right, I went left. And that's how, in a lot of ways, you know, creation became creation.
Can you sum up the story then, as you look at it
now? Came to London, lived in a squat with Andrew for primals, and ended up kind of, you know, doing TV shows in Los Angeles. I don't know. What can I do? You just got to do it, haven't you?